So Megan, who are you? What does your company do? And what problems do you solve?
Yeah, great. My name is Megan Sewell. I am head of sales at TrustLayer, which could mean a lot of things. I support our GTM strategy. We're a very cross-functional team, but support a handful of AEs and our enterprise level clients with complexity, as well as our partner, support our team on partnership initiatives. TrustLayer is a third-party risk management platform. So we are a risk mitigation tool that really is grounded in insurance. So what we do is we streamline and automate the process of collecting, tracking, managing, and verifying insurance and compliance to ensure contractual risk transfer,
Nice.
which is the crux of what we do.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And what made you join this space in the first place? Like, what's your story?
Yeah, shoot. So when I started in the world of work, I was very interested in the world of work. And so I started in recruitment and went through recruitment and really wanted to get additional business acumen. And so then I worked for an organization that did payroll and benefits and workers' comp. So I got an MBA in small business, I'd say. And through that, I learned a lot about insurance and workers' compensation and healthcare benefits. And while I was selling a prospect, they wanted to be on our workers' comp policy. And they had about a bunch of vendors across the country, 350 of which they had to ensure coverage was in place for workers' comp to get on our policy, and they were not tracking it very well. At that time, it was during COVID. I met TrustLayer. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to work for a startup in the technology space. And they said, "Hey, we're working on this thing that helps verify policies are in force in commercial insurance." And I'd seen COIs, and I thought, "Oh man, this is awesome! Like this is such a big gap. It's a piece of paper. The industry's so behind." And, that was it. That was it. And if you told me in college, like, "Hey, you'll be selling technology and you'll be in the world of insurance," I would have said, "You're out of your mind," but I love it for
Y-
multiple reasons.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people that love getting into tech sales, but also then insurtech, fintech. That world is people really like to get into that, or they see the big numbers of the deals and are really incentivized to get into it. So how was it at the start for you? Like, there's loads of factors that come into this side of sales. So how has was it ups and downs, smooth sailing? What's your perspective on that?
What I sold previously was a very, conceptual model, and I sold it to small and mid-sized businesses. So I was asking them and then I sold it to blue and gray collar. So I'm asking them to completely change and shift the way that they've been doing it and think about different and outsource some of that function. And I had to do my own demos, go through a lot of approvals. It was very structured and very rigid. So it was hard. So this, to me, selling technology is a breath of fresh air. Now, we have a managed service offering too, and that's where we get into a little bit more complexity. I think day 1, week 1, I said, "Hey, do we have a document or something for this industry, like a one pager?" And it was, "No, just go create one or mock up one that we have already, make changes." And I came from, a publicly traded company with 2,000 people. You weren't making any changes to the marketing material. And I hadn't used PowerPoint since college, and so I'm over here, Okay, I guess I'm gonna figure this out." And I would say that was my greatest learning curve.
Okay, and so then you start to go to market. What's your first sales motion look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm gonna close my door.
Dinners.
So TrustLayer was built off of broker partnerships. So we had a tremendous referral base. So when I was hired, they were actually like, "Hey, go find more brokers to refer us business because we're a resource for their clients." And I did that for the first year. And then I thought, I think this team wants me bringing in revenue. And we started saying we can't rely on referral partners. And so we built a direct go to market motion. Couple of different things. We had BDRs, but if I'm looking at scalability, it's really what in working closely with marketing and establishing a funnel to progress people through their education in the buying cycle. So really doing things to progress individuals and staying in front of them for when they're ready for that conversation
Mm,
and what that looks like. So from a scalability standpoint, our go-to market motion, that's where I would say we saw the greatest impact.
okay. So is there a split of it's marketing and providing the leads, or is it outbound to provide the leads? How does that split look for you?
Yeah, our split, you kind of look at our leads in two different ways. One, marketing. We actually, because we structure this funnel as awareness, buy-in, conversion. At conversion, we want to be calling those that have hit certain engagement thresholds or they're coming in as an inbound. And then the other place our leads come from still today are broker partner referrals. So we're consistently looking at how do we stay in front of those contacts, raise awarenesses about our wins, where we're having success, feature updates, while doing the same thing to the direct market. What's really cool about this is marketing could be marketing to one of our brokers' clients. And so our goal is to really find them at that right time and have multiple angles to have that discussion.
So what part of the buyer's journey is the hardest to control?
I would say we don't really think about control of a buyer's journey.
Okay.
So, we if I'm thinking about the buying cycle, because I'll focus on maybe before it gets to us, I don't know the research that they've gone into. I can see some of the things from a marketing lens. By the time they get to us, it's really what is their reason, what are their resources, and what resistance do they have? So we built a framework around triangle selling. So this is a triangle and you could look at it as a circle because throughout the sales cycle, you're constantly having to navigate the variables associated with those things. Getting back
Mm,
to the reason is the foundation, right? But what resources do they have or do they not? What resistance do they have or do they not? And how do we continually address those things to get us through the sales cycle? So I wouldn't say there's like one particular area that's hard to control. It's
yeah.
just about navigating those variables.
Yeah. So balancing all of them. Okay. Yeah. So what's a sales or growth mistake that you made early on when you joined TrustLayer?
Ooh, a mistake that I made early. Well, when I was hired, I came from a culture where I had success just doing what I was told to do, right? Like, hey, you do 16 first meetings, you do 4 a week, you do 16 first meetings a month, you do this, you have this many in this stage, you're going to have success. And that worked. And so I was, all right, I'm just going to do what I'm told. And so that first year, it wasn't until another AE was hired and she's like, what are you doing? I say, I call brokers and get them to refer us business. She's like, okay, how long does it take you to get a referral? Like, how does that generate revenue? And I'm thinking, this is a good question. And so I think in hindsight, and early in my sales process, I just needed to have more sales acumen to put push forward and like be critical about what's happening and think critical about where time is spent, how we generate revenue, and how we navigate those variables as a team.
Yeah. Okay. And so on the team topic, any learnings or anything that went wrong in the team side of things and building out and hiring salespeople?
Yeah, it's startups in particular can be tough to be player coach. It can be tough to be player coach, but it's such a common role in startups, right? Particularly that Series A, Series B, they're looking for player coach and obviously to transition. I think for new hires, I'm guilty of like sitting on calls and getting involved too early. Me wanting to help them is me stepping in versus just letting things happen. I even reached a point where I told the guys, I said, I just can't be on some of your calls. You can bring me in at later stages, but I have to coach you because the temptation for me. And the other thing I started doing is if I'm sitting on their calls, I'm coaching in the Chorus app while I'm sitting on them. So I'm able to be present and still feel like I'm contributing. So that was what I would say I struggled with the most.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's because I've seen it a few times where teams then have too much dependency on like on people like yourself, where then it's okay. Well, Megan's going to come in, so I don't need to be so hot because Megan's there. So okay, that makes sense. So okay, what's a belief about sales or growth that you strongly disagree with in the space?
In the InsurTech space in particular,
Yeah.
I'll just say, not all of your team needs to have an insurance background. but someone on your GTM, particularly your frontline sales, needs to know something about insurance. So some of these organizations get so caught up on their salespeople having AI background or like technology background. The world of InsurTech needs to make sure that you know insurance, legal. You're not going to go in and sell to an attorney something about contract review if you haven't studied anything on the legal side. You're not going to go sell a CPA something to help him, analyze the books better if you haven't done any real accounting work yourself. Now, I have not been an insurance agent or broker. I have not worked at a carrier, but I've been dealing with insurance for all of my career outside of recruiting. And so
Mm,
I just come across a handful of organizations that seem to be hyper focused on, AI or we need technology background. And I just, people can't fall into that trap. And if you don't, so I have the 2 AEs on my team, they don't have necessarily an insurance background, but they can articulate how the insurance business works. And they had a desire and a hunger to learn more about it. But you got to have at least a couple of people on your team who've got that experience and who have a willingness to bring others into the industry.
okay, that makes sense. And do you think that then that applies to the founders of these insurtech businesses as well? Because I mean, we saw it what 2, 3, 4 years ago where lots of people flooded to the insurtech space, spinning up startups to try and capture all this cash that was in the space, but then
Yeah.
they quit left as fast as they joined. So do you think that's the same across the founders and exec board?
I'm going to say it's too early to tell because in my mind right now, I can tell you I'm thinking of 3 underwriting specific AI. So they're looking at the underwriting bench and how they use AI to augment, not automate, because they're augmenting. The insurance side still really needs that human involved, right? To augment the process. And the background, the pedigree of those founders, the background is very, very good. The insurance on a few of them is a little limited. So I'm just gonna say it's too early to tell. I think we're seeing more and more people in insurance going in the tech side, coming from a carrier. I mean, we have 5 team members from a carrier that are now in
Okay.
insurance, right? But on the founder side, I think agentic AI is a great example, right? Like, agentic AI works really well in highly regulated industries where it's a lot of heavy documentation and we want to really get the LLMs in there to augment the. So I think people see the opportunity, and if you have the technical acumen, you are likely going to be ahead or be able to surround yourself with engineers and product people that can push you forward as fast as possible, right? But you still gotta have the insurance acumen. I'm amped up about this because I'm constantly, like, watching what's happening, And we've been doing this since 2018, and you have to show up. You have to show up where these people are in the industry.
Mm, yeah. Okay. No, completely fair. What about a metric in sales that a lot of people track, but you don't think they should?
Are people still tracking calls today?
Yeah.
Then I don't care. I don't care. Why are we not tracking conversations? We have a new BDR on our team. And I was just talking about this yesterday. I said, I'm more interested in taking the transcripts from not more, but I'm let's say equally interested in taking the transcripts from conversations that he has and doing something with that than I am in the volume of calls that he makes.
Mm,
And maybe even initially for the project we have him doing, for the number of meetings he set. Because those conversations, those very, very frontline conversations tell us something about how our product and our business is perceived in market, right?
mm.
And so, let's start studying metrics around conversations. Like, let's look at themes and analytics around conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's yeah, I'm a big fan of the conversations as well. Like lots of people like to boast their either dial time or amount of dials. That seems to be the two. But yeah, no. How many people are you actually speaking to, and then of the right people are you speaking to, and then how many are you actually booking in instead of you're out there with the vanity metrics.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
let's go into a bit of a quick fire round. So I'll try and not ask you a question off the back of the question. So, a book or a podcast that's changed how you think.
Completely changed how I think. I think I'm pretty selective with my reading. I read Outliers in like, I don't know, 3 days in college.
Okay.
After college, Grit by Angela Duckworth. Really, really good book. It's not specific to sales necessarily, but a solid book just about that. And then podcast, I'm an avid listener of Shane Parrish, The Knowledge Project. He also has a book, Clear Thinking, but just a really great book about learning from the people that do they're like the best of the best. So none of those are directly sales related, but those are my go-tos.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. What's a favorite sales tool?
At TriNet, when I was starting, I would just tell you the phone
Okay. Yeah.
because like conversations are everything, right? And it's truly how I got to my number. Here at TrustLayer, I'm going to tell you Notion. And that is simply credit to how we are using Notion and how our CEO envisions us using Notion as a growing organization and the impact it has on and us being able to do things with optimal efficiently.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see how you guys are doing the Notion stuff at some point. And
Sure.
then for the phone, power dialer, auto dialer, or traditional.
That's a tough question. So I've been on Connect and Sell. If you know your product and you got your talk track down, it can be very helpful if you segment your list right. I also like having extreme control of who I'm dialing and when going into calls. So
Hmm.
I'm having a very concise list and doing that manual.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you think there's a place for all, but at the moment you're heavier weighted on the manual.
Yeah. If you I could call today and I told our VDR, I said, that's not like an optimal use of my time, right? But if you want me to do 30 minutes of that, I'm still comfortable getting on the phone because I
Hmm.
did it for so long. And if you have your very, very focused list and you put in the reps and it's the industry, it's the persona, man, calling it's not that bad to get out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of phones. Um, okay, and then underrated go-to-market channel.
Underrated go-to market channel. We're in the world of triangulation. So, you know how earlier I talked about our marketing team is marketing to contacts. We're building broker partner relationships. We have clients who we may not know their broker partners. In the era of people can go out and do a bunch of research, word of mouth in an industry and triangulation are the most important
Hmm.
from a sales perspective.
Okay. Yeah, and then a founder or sales leader that you really admire.
Ooh. So on Chris, I'm not gonna pronounce any of these names right. So just prepare yourself. Chris Orlub that does pclub.io. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
Dave Rubenstein, he does the 100 founders. He was at Outreach before. He's pretty solid. He's
Okay.
interviewed founders, so a lot of startup GTM strategy stuff. And then another one that Brandon Flaherty. He does Purposeful Performer, and he's been in SaaS sales since before SaaS sales was a thing.
Okay.
Very enterprise level focus, but why I like him is because it's Purposeful Performer. Like sales is so much more than you being caught up in your number
Hmm.
than you
Yeah.
being upset because we're that's a lot of dominant drivers, type A personalities in sales, right? Also a lot of introverts. And there's a space for everyone there. So I just love his philosophical approach to the sales life and how the end goal for a lot of people is autonomy.
Mm, okay, nice. Well, Megan, where should people reach out if they have questions about TrustLayer or just questions about things that we spoke about on this podcast?
Yeah, sure. Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm Megan Burkett Sewell. If you're looking, there's also not many Megan Sewells. I'm happy to chat about anything related to risk management, contractual risk transfer, InsurTech, you name it. I'm also really into fitness and wellness. So if you want to nerd out about any of that, I'm happy to chat about that. But Really appreciate the conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. It's been great to hear behind the scenes of how you think about it. I think TrustLayer is really cool. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
Love it.